Welcome to Strange Encounters and Unusual Happenings. I'm Nyx, curator of these dreadfully malefic tales. What you're about to hear are the true submissions from listeners just like yourselves. Stories of the paranormal, the strange, the unexplained, the close calls that surely would have ended in death. And lest we not forget the beautiful, the voice of the other that warns us from danger, the messages from loved ones past, and the hand of the divine that rests on our shoulder as we stand at the crossroads that is life. That's right, my dear listeners. This show is about you, about this unusual world we live in. It's about the truth. Our truth. Tonight's submission is from our dear, dreadful Rob, a friend and constant listener. I call this story Hellbent, or Heaven Sent. Nyx, I hope this isn't too short to use. Most of the paranormal events I can recall from over the years are getting fuzzy on details, and likely won't fill much space. But this one stands out enough that I could remember most of the details. We didn't have many cats when I was a kid, 4 that I can recall, and 4 dogs. But Omen really stood out because, you'll see in the story. Rob. I don't know if this could count as a paranormal happening, but it was an interesting happening in my life, and I wanted to share it. Unlike my previous experience I sent to Nyx, this one is much, much tamer. In early summer of 1980, I was 12 years old, and my middle brother Joe was 16, and into motorcycles, much to my mother's concern. A valid concern, it turned out, as shortly after summer started, Joe was in an accident that resulted in him breaking the femur in his left leg, literally in half. A bad break, but luckily for him, the worst injury he sustained in the accident. It also landed him in the hospital for most of the summer, during which time he had to undergo surgery to have first pins, then a rod inserted to make sure the bones healed properly. As my father worked and my mother was at my brother's bed almost every day of that time, I was left in the care of my sister, who lived just down the road from us. My sister and her now ex-husband owned a small horse farm, and along with it, quite a number of both domestic house and barn cats. It wasn't unheard of for new cats to show up from time to time as people just dumped them off there, and most ended up living out their lives there, helping to keep the rat and mouse populations down. This particular summer, a calico kitten showed up one day, a kitten we at first called Matilda, thinking it was a girl, as we, my nephews and myself, had been told all calicos were female, but whose name had to be changed when she turned out to be he. So I named him Omen, due to him having one green and one blue eye, and that made him mysterious to my 12-year-old mind. And Omen sounded like a mysterious name, so hey, why not? This would turn out to be a rather ironic choice. Omen was a sweet and friendly cat that didn't stand out all that much from the other barn cats, but all that changed shortly after my brother was released from the hospital. He had had a rod placed in his leg, as I said earlier, and was able to get around on crutches, but for the most part was confined to bed for the remainder of the summer. It was around that time that Omen started hanging around our house, having come there from my sister's entirely of his own accord. This was the first and last time I ever recall one of the cats from there doing so. What made things even more odd was my father, who was not a cat lover by any means. He tolerated them at best, actually took to Omen, giving him leftover chicken and the like before finally agreeing to let him into the house. Right from the start, Omen's favorite place to lay was right over the break on my brother's left leg. I'm talking right on top of it, anytime he laid down for a nap. I don't recall how long this went on for, but it was at least a few weeks. Now, in recent years, I've heard that the purring of a cat can speed healing in owners. Not sure if that's anecdotal or not, but thing is, when my brother later went for surgery to have the rod in his leg removed, the surgeon stated he had never seen the level of calcium growth around the break that was evident in my brother's leg. This was a good thing, of course, as it meant it healed well, though I remember it did take them a bit more effort to remove the rod because of it. Omen would remain a part of our family for about a year or so after this. Then, one day, he simply disappeared. I learned much later that my brother found him by the road, having been hit by a car, and my mother had forbidden him to tell me. Part of me wondered if Omen had completed his task in life and walked into the road intentionally, or if it was just the usual vagaries of fate. We'll never know. But while he was in our lives, he truly lived up to his sweet, if somewhat mysterious nature. I wonder if I'll ever meet his like again. Well now, I think that is our time for the night, my dear listeners. I hope you've enjoyed this selection for strange encounters and unusual happenings. And if you have a true story you would like to share on the show, please type it out in an email, no attachments, as clearly and with as much detail as possible, to pennydreadfulmoment@gmail.com. And if you would like to be a part of the dreadful community, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because, subbing to a channel isn't a clear intention of wanting content from said channel. YouTube, I'm looking at you. Now, I'll leave you with this little thought. Remember, my dear dreadfuls, don't be afraid of the dark. Be terrified of what is in it. Until next time.